The George Washington University, at the intersection of policy, practice, and research, connecting all that Washington has to offer with an intellectual environment that drives progress, transforming vision into action, offering learning experiences that are rigorous, real-time, and real-world. In a city shaping the future, George Washington is a place where faculty and students don't just study the world, they work to change it.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back for some more EGFC Rocket League. We are here with the final series of the evening, still Septilance and Soy, and this is going to be not what that scoreline below us says. This is a 0-0 scoreline. George Washington University and Wichita State, they're going toe-to-toe to close out the week, Soy.
Yeah, this is the final game of the night, and this is a big one, really, for both of these teams in this Eastern Conference that is so tightly compact. George Washington, they are right in the thick of things in that playoff conference or that playoff race at 6-7. They're going to need a little bit of help, but their chances are really good if they can get the win this week over Wichita State.
Without a doubt. So a breaking even could do dividends for George Washington. Now, unfortunately, and I'm not positive, but I believe Wichita is not going to be able to attend with a 3-10 scoreline. Again, I don't really know the scorelines that well. I don't know what the requirements are to meet, but with the records of some of the schools that we've seen this week, tonight, I think it is going to be an unlikely story. However, George Washington, they are at a 0 plus-minus here in their game score. They are a 6-7. If they win tonight, if they go 7-7, and hypothetically a 3-plus game, that could be absolutely colossal for them.
Yeah, those tiebreakers really come into effect because we're talking about win percentages, and having a dead even 51, it really teeter-totters with a lot of these teams that are going to be at that kind of even marker. And that's assuming they can get the win in the first place. They are the favorites walking into here, but Wichita State, I mean, they're no slouches. If I had to point out one thing I remember about this Wichita State roster, their defense is very good. They can withstand a lot of pressure. They are very good at working in minimal spaces and with minimal boost overall. So George Washington, they're going to have to find another level offensively to try and get the job done today.
And I think something fascinating we might see is the same issue that St. John's had earlier this evening, where the defense is strong, but if the opposing team can get aggressive enough, they can just eventually slam through. The defense is only going to hold for so long. And as we jump into game one here, 5 minutes on the clock, Wichita versus George Washington to wrap out this evening. It's going to be all about the performances here in game one to dictate how the rest of tonight goes.
Good air dribble from Sticks right off the bat. This George Washington squad, they said when we interviewed them in the past that historically their strength has been their defense, but this split, they said their offense, they feel like it's really come alive, and so that is going to be put to the test today, as there's an early chance for the Shockers. They nearly find one off the bat there, but in transition, here come the Colonials.
Currently kind of just waiting to gauge Wichita's offensive performance here tonight. We talked about how it's kind of been a bit of a struggle for them when they're able to get onto the offense. Can they overperform when they need to? Can they make the magic happen? We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, however, though, Wichita, they're trying to show up large and in charge. Mr. Gopher with a demolition. They were very close to finding a goal as well, but unfortunately just not able to get that lineup.
Wichita State, too, you'll also note that this is a roster that has gone through some changes from last year to this year, and so they've kind of found their form as of late. Mr. Gopher, the only returning member of this starting lineup. Hybro has been a instrumental piece for the Wichita State lineup. When he gets going, this team is hard to slow down, but a lot of pressure here going to be on him and 25 Cent to get this offense going in the first place. As right now, not a whole lot of time in the offensive zone, just kind of punch for punch through the midfield line.
Punch for punch in the midfield line indeed, Soy. They are just going toe-to-toe here, absolutely down the line. 3:15, we're almost 2 minutes deep into this series, and nobody has really even come relatively close to putting a goal away yet.
It's because these defenses are just so solid and honest until this moment when Sticks gets the juke in front of the net. Just enough space to beat 25 Cent.
Yeah, well, that was going to be a fascinating turnaround, perhaps a wee bit of a cast or curse, but still it's going to be George Washington with a good opportunity to find that first goal online. 2 minutes off the clock. Wichita, they've got more than enough time to make the magic happen here.
More than enough time indeed. They got to find a way to break out of the zone here. So you're starting to see George Washington, their offense, it's almost like a boa constrictor where they just slowly work away at you with difficult plays and passes. Even there, the redirect is going to make it a little bit more costly of a move there from 25 cent. But there's a passing play off the corner, kicks it out wide, and you're seeing George Washington, they're just forcing Wichita State to stay honest, keep their solid rotation. It hasn't been disrupted so far, but George Washington, the time of possession continues to rack up.
Yeah, a huge opportunity there. Pybro not able to find that lineup, but still a defensive block is going to be just enough to keep the dream alive. Down to 2:14, only one goal on the board. Not even for both teams, only a single goal has made an appearance here, and George Washington gonna make it a second one. That's gonna be Stengel finding a huge opportunity there. So 2 minutes left, 2 points on the board, and Wichita in a 2-point deficit. They're really gonna have to kick it up a notch.
Scheme with a great pass there off the backboard, and then Stengel, the shot placement was also great, but you'll notice both Wichita State defenders on that back line, on that back wall, end up bumping each other out of the way. It's so very tempting, when you're on the goal line, when you're both back like that, to both go for the ball. Wichita State falling prey to it there.
25 Cent has the opportunity to strike, but is completely disrupted by George Washington's offense. Sticks has to go above and beyond, in more of a literal sense than a figurative one. Goes all the way to the top of the arena, but unfortunately the follow-up from the teammates were not there. Scheme trying to make the magic happen. A double commit from George Washington, still not able to line it up in goal. Mr. Gopher has a great disruption for Pybro. Is there a follow-up? Scheme going to be there to take it apart once again. Wichita, Soy, it feels like they are 80% there to these scores, but it's when they get right next to goal that they seem to drop the ball.
Yeah, right now they're doing a decent job of getting the ball into George Washington's half. But like you said, they get into that, back third of the line, and there's a player always ready for George Washington right now. This offense, it's got to start finding a way to be a little bit faster to the punch on these 50-50s. This is a good pass play, though.
Oh!
That's towards the line, and it's saved away by Stengel.
A little bit too high there. Stengel bounces it off the crossbar and gets it out of dodge. 52 seconds remain. Wichita still hanging out at that goose egg. Unfortunately, Scheme trying to find a third. Mr. Gopher, a phenomenal disruption to boot. And George Washington trying to find a third goal to put it all away. 25 Cent is there to block it out. Mr. Gopher gets demoed, but he demoed the wrong Wichita player there, my friend. 35 seconds left, so we are looking at a really difficult scenario for Wichita.
And the clock just continues to be worked away at here from George Washington. All this possession in this corner is burning so much time, and it's going to be harder for the Shockers to get this ball out of that corner, as now with under 20 seconds left, they get a demo. This could be big, but Stengel, that's a huge 50-50.
A colossal 50-50 if there's a capitalization off the back of it. 8 seconds remain. Pressure is on like never before, and unfortunately as we tick down to that sub-10, that sub-5 rather, Wichita is going to have to kiss game one goodbye. A 2-0 lineup here for George Washington to walk away with that first game.
Yeah, and I think more or less what we kind of expected from two teams that have shown how good they are defensively. A 2-0 scoreline is no surprise, but what is really surprising is that you look at the shot totals overall from George Washington. So many shots, and this was the worry, right? We saw this in the first set, like you said, between St. John's and UConn. The team that just has more possession is going to get more chances, and it's going to have more opportunities to score, and that seems to be the case once again.
Absolutely. Those more opportunities to score work out well for George Washington. They walk away with that game one victory. Wichita, I said it again, or I said it once, I'll say it again, just like 80% of the way there, right? It was those final errors, those small micro mistakes that ended up costing them quite a few goals. They could have tied things up, maybe taken us into an overtime, but unfortunately, hindsight is 2020. Moving into this next game, Wichita's got to look at it as a GG go next. They've got to play game two just like game one and try to walk away with some points on the board.
Yeah, I think the biggest key for Wichita State moving forward, like you said, they're able to get the ball into the opponent's half. But the shots and the accuracy, there's always a player ready to respond on the side of George Washington. So you've either got to up the pace of your rotation, or you got to find a way to get that 50-50 a little bit better or more in your favor to try and set up some passing lanes. There's no space once you get into that back third. It's a lot easier for the defense to read along the back wall. So they've got to find a way to really open up the space in that offensive half. And I think the easiest way to do that is by upping the speed of your rotation.
Absolutely. The speed of rotations feels, at the very least, like it needs to be the name of the game right now. I was very fond of the physicality we saw from Wichita. Everybody who's ever seen me cast Rocket League knows physicality is my favorite thing to see. Those demolitions, those bumps, and Wichita was really kicking it up in the final half of that game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it consistently enough. George Washington gets to run away with game one, but now Soy jumping face first into game two. We're going to have to see what Wichita can bring to the table.
Kickoff goes in their favor, but George Washington is going to be the first to this ball. That's a good kick off the corner, but Sticks is there. And look how fast George Washington are in transition. What a passing play that was to get the first real shot of the game.
Yeah, quite a passing play indeed. Really able to keep the momentum there. The pass, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to put a goal away. But as I say that, George Washington getting a little bit antsy there, a little bit hectic, almost finding a goal onto Wichita, but now Wichita looking for a goal of their own. 25 Cent brings it in hot, but it is going to be blocked out by Stakes. Demolition now, that physicality from Mr. Gopher to make it a very brief 3v2. However, by the time I finish that sentence, that player has already respawned. Scheme goes for a shot. Gopher finds it back out, and it is a minute gone already, Soy.
I like what I see from George Washington already. You're seeing them, force kind of slower play because of these passing plays that they're able to find. It's reminiscent of UConn, actually, the way they're able to find a couple of these passing lanes between players. And it's not always for, an opportunity to shoot. They're using it to break out of the zone, to break through neutral, to get out of the midfield lines that Wichita State is usually the one drawing.
Feels like for a majority of this, I'm trying to think of a way to properly say this, but it feels like we're seeing just a very similar situation between UConn and St. John's, as we saw earlier tonight, is where one of the teams just feels like they are in ball control 80, 90% of the time. And right now, I do believe that is George Washington. Wichita, when they find ball control, they're able to make a little bit of space, get some action to come through. But unfortunately, Wichita, every time they get ball control, it's just snatched right back by George Washington.
Yeah, the difference between this series and that series is, again, the honesty of these defenses. You're seeing that the rotations, similar to what we saw in UTA and Colorado, it's very much so one apiece every single time.
Right.
Neither team really willing to commit more than that one player down the field, and it's why these defenses have been so good. They've always got a player ready and in position. And that goes back to what you saw, or what you said between games one and game two, is that Wichita State, they have to find a way to improvise here, and we started to see a little bit of that physicality come through, but now they've got to be able to capitalize off of it.
Entering the second half of the game, and by golly, Soy, do I hope that we get some kind of second game boost from somebody, because a game with no points is often considered not very entertaining, if we're being honest. So I would love to see one of these players kick it up just a wee bit. Somebody put a point on the board. Usually when I start talking about it, somebody finds it, but it looks like my caster curse only has so many options.
In a game like this, where the defenses have been so sturdy all season long, sometimes all it takes is that kind of mind game, that fake, that juke, here or there to really throw off the defense. Even a whiff sometimes occasionally, makes a lot of space happen for one of these teams. And you can tell George Washington, they're starting to smell some blood in the water right now. That was a good first initial shot, but they couldn't get the follow-up to get a second one on goal.
100 seconds left on the clock right now, so as George Washington and Wichita are still rocking and rolling with those big old goose eggs. We might as well get ready to make some breakfast with the amount of eggs we've got on hand right now, and it's going to be 90 seconds already. But like you said, these defenses are just so strong. The offenses on both sides have yet to be able to play to par.
You're seeing it's really just a lot of one and done. That's a good chance Six has to make a hard save, and the clear, too, a powerful one, so Mr. Gopher can't really continue that offense, and that has been the name of the game for these two teams, just one and done. And when that is the case, it is hard to maintain offensive pressure like a lot of teams are able to do. We see that numerous times in the Big East and in the MAC. When you have that sustained pressure, you burn through so much boost, but That's not been the story for these two, but the long bomb from Scheme finds the mark, and George Washington grabbed the lead.
And that is just a fraction of a second, a moment of difference, Soy. Had that player on the side of Wichita been 1 second ahead of where they were, 25 Cent could have knocked that ball right out of the air and kept the dream alive. But now, as George Washington finds a 1 goal, the first goal we have seen here in this second game, that could be the very goal that they walk away with a Game 2 win on.
And that speed, that pace of play that we wanted to see from Wichita State just wasn't quite there. Like you said, frames away from being able to block that one and keep those zeros on the board. But now Wichita State, they're forced to try and make a play here. That's a double commit, but this ball ends up back in 25 Cent's half. Off the backboard, the only one there is a George Washington player, and now the Shockers are in scramble mode.
Scramble mode indeed, so with only 20 seconds left on the clock, that is more than enough time to put a goal away, but when the wrong team puts it down, that is going to secure everything short of a victory here for George Washington in Game 2. Wichita has 16 seconds, 1 goal per 8 seconds. Impossible? Certainly not. Probable? Also no.
What a smart play there, too, from Sticks. That tap to the corner is usually very dangerous because it's just going to give possession right back, but he beat the defender to the ball and was able to lay that ball down in front of the box and put this game on ice. Unless Pybro puts that in, it's a good shot, but Sticks, again, is in the right place at the right time to make the save.
Finally, George Washington going to walk away with that second game victory, putting them only 5 minutes away from 3-0 Wichita to close out the night. And Wichita, unfortunately, Soy, 10 minutes deep into the series, have not been able to find that first goal quite yet.
Yeah, and not for lack of trying, but you are seeing similar to that very first set we saw where, only 3 shots for the side of Wichita State. The opportunities for them are few and far between. So for Wichita, you have to be able to make those few opportunities count. And you're seeing time and time again, the passing lanes aren't quite there. The first initial shot might be, but there's always a player ready to respond. And that's why I think speed is the key here for Wichita. It led in that first goal. They weren't fast enough to that midfield challenge. And in these cases in offense, you can't let your offense get bogged down in the corner. The corner is the safest place for the ball to be for both teams. You've got to find a way to work that ball out down Main Street.
Yeah, just to get caught out on the corner, like you said, to get bogged down can really be a difference maker in a game like this one. If your team is not able to capitalize down that midcourt, down that midfield, then there's going to be no proper actualization for these goals to come through. And now it's going to be 5 more minutes on the clock. George Washington up 2-0 on the series in Wichita. This is their time to shine, Soy.
Have to see if they can make those adaptations. They've got some decent pressure here, threatening the bump along that back line, and that's not exactly the touch I think Stengel was looking for, but this ball will be forked back mid, and Scheme there to respond once again. I think one of the things that you're seeing time and time again is Wichita State, they want to work towards that backboard, and George Washington are wise to it. They've got a player already along the wall, stopping that centering pass, and it's shutting down a lot of what the Shockers have had success with on offense.
A lot of this is going to fall just a wee bit short, and Stengel able to find a demolition. However, no capitalizations quite yet. Stengel bounces that one in. That one may have been a little bit of luck, Soy, if we're being honest.
This is a smart play here from Stengel. You see all 3 players from George Washington are in the Wichita State half, but the problem is they're moving left to right. They've got nowhere to go down the middle of the field, and so Stengel just says, okay, I'll cut off to that right side and make sure the ball comes directly to me, and Wichita State was just not ready for it at all. So George Washington with a early lead here in game number 3, and now continuing to press as they can't find the 50-50 on the Pybro.
50-50 not going to make the magic happen quite like they're looking for. A minute already down, George Washington finding themselves up 1-0 on the situation at hand. This is just going to be tough. It's still, to this very moment, feels like Washington has just done such a consistent job of keeping themselves in charge.
They are just reading the ball so well. They've got the time to react, but this is a decent chance here. Pybro's ceiling shot, gonna get 50'd away. That's a good redirect in front, and 25 Cent can't get there in time. Sticks the recovery too clean.
Recovery 2 clean indeed. It is going to be a phenomenal performance now from George Washington. They find ball control once again. Wichita, actually, Mr. Gopher able to finally meet them up top and get a little bit of action going down. Scheme with the mid-ball catch is going to be able to knock it toward the goal of George Washington once again. And here comes a possible goal on the side of George Washington, but no, it is bounced right back out. Wichita's defense finally getting to do some work here.
Oh, big save along the goal line as Sticks was looking for another, and this goal line defense for Wichita State keeping them alive. That's a whiff. 25 Cent will put it in the back of the net, and we're tied up.
Wichita, it is going to take them 13 minutes in total, Soy, but a goal on the board is insanely important here. Now they only need one more. They can force a possible Game 4 if they can walk away with this win, but we're still in the first half of the game. George Washington has more than enough time to answer that goal.
You're starting to see George Washington, they're realizing the pace of play is a little bit in their favor. They're winning a lot of these challenges because of their speed, but they're getting a little bit too eager. They're starting to press up. You're seeing 2 or 3 members start to be at that midfield line and just waiting for Wichita State to hand the ball over. They've got to play a little bit more honest if they're going to continue to try and dominate this game. But like we said, Wichita State are starting to find their openings.
The openings have shown their faces here. What is there going to be the opening they're looking for? We've seen so many times these teams come so close, neck and neck, just 99% of the way toward a goal, and then the capitalization just falls a little bit short, and nobody is able to follow through. 2 minutes left on the clock here, 1-1 lineup, and like I said, if Wichita can walk away with Game 3, I have confidence they may be able to kick it up and around in Game 4, but as I say that, George Washington's scheme going to put that second goal down, 1:57 left.
Smart touch once again, and 25 Cent gets hung out to dry by the bounce off of the wall there. You see that bounce off the corner ramp, kicks out perfectly to Scheme, and Scheme doesn't have to think about shooting this ball. He just has to think about beating the defender, and the ball ends up happening, going right into the center of the net to give them the 2-1 lead.
Oh, 2-1 is not going to exist for very long, so Mr. Gopher, clean, probably the cleanest play we've seen from Wichita so far, just walks that bad boy right up and in there, puts that goal away past 2 defenders and ties it up with 106 seconds left.
And that is such a good shot from Mr. Gopher, too. That flick is incredible. The power that he gets off of it, you're thinking he's going to forward flip into that ball to get more power into it, but he gets enough just off the nose of his car, and Scheme with another big save off the backboard.
Huge save off the backboard. 90 seconds remain, and we're going to have to see if George Washington can follow through with that third and final goal to end the series and put it down. Oh! That is disastrous, Soy. A very rough moment there. It's going to be a complete roll-in. Stengel puts it down past 25 Cent, past Mr. Gopher, and that is going to be a phenomenal opportunity for George Washington.
That's so unfortunate for the side of Wichita State. That shot comes in, and 25 Cent, who's just rotating back to net, it ends up kicking off the back end of his car, going past the last defender. It's almost like a hockey redirect just going off their own player. Not an own goal on purpose by any means, but something that they'll have to come back from now, as with a minute remaining, they've got the ball into the George Washington half, but what can they do with it?
What can they do with it, Soy? They can try to find a goal if they're able to capitalize off the back. However, Mr. Gopher getting a little bit overzealous, leaves goal to go for a goal of their own. Luckily enough, Pybro is going to be there to catch that out and keep the dream alive for Wichita. 40 seconds remain. A huge opportunity for Wichita to, at the very least, tie things up.
Ooh, 25 Cent had the flick, but he couldn't get back to it in time. Low boost, and look at this in transition. Sticks with the redirect to make it 4-2.
Oh my goodness, what a call out from Sticks in the center field. Just throws that bad boy from downtown all the way into goal. Wichita unfortunately has nobody there to catch it, and with 30 seconds left, Soy, we need 1 goal per 15 seconds for Wichita to walk away with a win.
This is the most offense they've had all game. If there was a time to do it, it's now. But George Washington, again, so dangerous with that midfield line. They called him out once. Wichita State's going to have to make a play now. But Scheme, that's going to burn a lot of time off the clock. And this one going to make it. Oh, no, off the post. The redirect kicks out, but they're out of time. This one has to go in now, and 25 Cent can't get there.
25 cent unfortunately cannot find it, but that is George Washington University walking away with a 3-0 victory here to end the night. Wichita not able to compare quite as aggressively this evening. George Washington, I'm sure they are beyond stoked to have that 3-0.
That 3-0 will do wonders for them down the line in terms of those playoff standings. Again, they reach even. Now they've got that +3 game differential on their side. They're feeling pretty good about their chances overall in the postseason, but I mean, they've got to get there in the first place, so we'll have to see.
I'd rather have it turned off than me look like that on stream, if I'm being honest. So we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and I believe call it a night. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get an interview, so thank you everybody so much for coming. A huge shout out to these 6 teams we had the opportunity to cast tonight. I believe Soy and I will just be rocking and rolling into next week as well. So everybody, we will see you then. We love each and every one of you so very much. Check your posture, drink some water, and don't forget to love each other. We'll see you guys next week.